Hi again, everybody. Welcome back. Another Distributed with TED Magazine podcast. Thanks, everybody, for downloading all the episodes, watching them on tedmag.com. We really appreciate it. Again, I'm Scott Costa. I'm the publisher of TED Magazine, hosting the podcast. We got a good one for you today because we're really excited. First time ever, NAED is hosting its Data Analytics Conference, which I'm really excited. Data Insights Conference. Really excited about that. That's coming up October 25 through 27. It's at the Westin Dallas Fort Worth Airport Hotel. Details are at naed.org/data/insights.conference. I'll put the information at the bottom of the screen coming up here. One of the speakers at the conference, I'm excited to have him on, TJ O'Connor. TJ is the president of the Farmington Consulting Group, also known as FCG. It's a leading market research and growth strategy firm in the electrical, plumbing, and HVAC distribution industries. Here's the thing, TJ is nationally recognized as an expert growth strategist in our channel. He has a ton of experience conducting and analyzing distribution industry surveys, leading advisory councils, and at facilitating strategic planning sessions. And he's going to be a speaker coming up at the Data Insights Conference, which I'm really excited about. And he's going to be talking about you and your customers, which is a huge part of what all of this is about, and getting the information that you need from them. So TJ, first, thanks for joining me on the podcast. And second, thanks for agreeing to be a speaker at this first ever Data Insights Conference. We're excited to have you.
Thank you, Scott. It's a pleasure to be here and looking forward to seeing everyone in Dallas at this first ever event for NAED.
Yeah, it's going to be cool. So let's get into this. Again, don't mention any names. We don't want to shame anybody or anything like that. But you've been doing this for a while, and you've been, you've been helping people conduct surveys. I hate to go negative off the top, but tell me some of the mistakes folks make when they're creating surveys on their own, and then you look at them, and you're like, ooh, it would have been better if you'd have done this. What kind of mistakes do you see out there in terms of, again, customer surveys and doing it the wrong way? And then we'll talk a little more about doing it the right way.
Yeah, that's a great question. So we've been doing this for over 40 years, since 1982, as you mentioned, working in the electrical, plumbing, and HVAC distribution industry. So I have a lot of experience, and conducting customer satisfaction surveys is one of the main areas of focus for our company. And we come upon a lot of distributors that have done surveys themselves in the past, and some have done them well. But like you said, there are some pitfalls that distributors fall into. And one of them is asking questions that are either leading the customers to provide the answers that the distributor wants, right? And not asking questions that really will provide actionable data. And I would say that really leads into the second point, is which ties into the purpose of this conference, is you want to, if you're going to conduct a survey and ask for feedback from your customers, you want to turn it into something that's very black and white, data driven, that you can benchmark and measure year over year and see how have we improved, have we moved the needle, have we not. And so that's where we really come into play with our experience. And the other thing that I would say, Scott, is an error that a lot of distributors make when they're getting feedback from their customers is the audience. Who do they ask, right? A lot of distributors like to tap their buddies, their best friends, who are only going to pat them on the back and tell them the best. And a lot of them don't really cast the net wide enough and find out from those people that, maybe they don't have such great things to say about you, and maybe they're doing more business with your competitor down the road. So we really focus on, when we do a survey for one of our clients, on let's hear about the areas where you're performing well, but as importantly, if not more importantly, let's hear about your opportunities for growth and improvement. And again, turning that into actionable data that we can measure and improve over time.
Right. So I have a lot of follow-up to that. Hang in there. We're going to, again, let's talk about this just a little bit. You talked about, again, interviewing or sending the surveys to your friends, those who are loyal to you and your brand. That's not a horrible thing, because at least you will know what you're doing well, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. The best surveys that we conduct have an evenly distributed amount of positive feedback. Hey, this is what you're doing well, and negative or recommendation type feedback. Hey, this is what you're struggling with, where where you have a competitive disadvantage with, right? Because as you mentioned, your strengths are important. They're the core competencies of your business. You want to build on those. You want to make sure that your loyal customers remain loyal to you through the excellent customer experience that you're providing. But to my point earlier, there's got to be an equal amount of focus on what are the areas that we're struggling on and where do we have disadvantages to our competition. One of the areas that we ask on the surveys that we conduct for distributors is we ask the customer, whether it's a contractor, an industrial OEM, MRO, an institution, utility, what have you, what is your relationship to that distributor? Are they your primary source of supply, meaning they give you the bulk of their business? Is that supplier or distributor a secondary supplier of yours? You give them a lot of your business, but not the lion's share. Or is that distributor just a tertiary supplier of yours? Do they just come to you as a last source of supply? And we really focus in our analysis of the customer feedback. What are the reasons that your primary customers are really satisfied with you, and how do you continue to earn their business? But as importantly, what are the reasons that your secondary and tertiary customers are giving more of their spend to other distributors, or maybe not even distributors, but alternate channels, right? And what can you do as a distributor to create a competitive advantage and earn more market share from those secondary and tertiary customers? And that's got to be a data-driven initiative. And so collecting that type of information and those analytics are crucial.
So I'm going to jump to the end, but then we're going to go back to the middle again, if that's okay. So hang in there with me. So let's get back to, again, the Data Insights Conference that NAED is having. Who should come and listen to what you're saying? Is it the marketing guy who's creating the survey? Is it the sales, the woman who's the sales director of sales, or the vice president of national sales, or whatever it is, because they're going to analyze the information? Is it all of them, because it's sort of a team effort in terms of making sure you've got the right surveys going out, you're analyzing it the proper way, you're sending it along to, again, the entire sales team? Like, who needs to hear all of this to be involved in the entire survey process?
Yeah, great question, Scott. So the answer is it's all of the above, right? Most surveys that distributors run, whether on their own or they use a third party like ourselves, it's a marketing-driven initiative. Marketing is the one that comes up with the idea. They create the list, they create the questions, they send it out, and everything. And while marketing does play a big role in this process, the project is going to fall on its face if it's solely a marketing initiative. Sales needs to be heavily involved in determining who we're going to ask for feedback from, how we're going to ask for it, and in the follow-up process as well. So my clients, including many NAED distributors who we've done surveys for, that do the best job of not only administering the survey, because that's just a small part of it, but the actual follow-up process and what are we going to do about this feedback? How are we going to respond to it and grow with it? It's really a top-down driven initiative. So I would say, anyone from top management to sales leaders to operations leaders to marketing would gain benefits from being involved and learning more about the topic.
And then do all of those people, they come to the conference, they get some help from you, they figure out how they want to send out their customer surveys, they get data back. Do all of those people play a role in the data analytics part of it? I have concern, again, if I sent out a survey about TED, I'll use me, I'll throw myself under the bus. If I send out about a survey about TED Magazine, I get results, and, regardless of what the results say, I'm probably going to say, oh, no, we're great. So is there is it an across the board, then everybody analyzes what the data is so you can create the strategy, or does that get sectioned out? How do you do that?
Well, when we conduct a survey for a distributor and I come in and present the results to them, to their management team, I present it in a way where we keep industry benchmarking data. So we're able to compare them to 100+ other distributors across the country that are either electrical, plumbing, or HVAC. So it's a very, again, apples to apples comparison.
Yeah.
But to answer your question about who's involved in that, again, it's really a total management team effort, because when you get back to the topic of what we're talking about, which is servicing your customer, that is not just a single department, right? That, purchasing is involved in that to make sure we have the correct products in stock, right?
Yeah.
IT is part of that to make sure that our computer systems are working efficiently and fast, in a fast way, so that it can service our customers.
Mhm.
My company, we're just wrapping up a big industry study that we're doing on best practice for accounts receivable and credit department. That's a huge part of it, right? Are we flexible, understanding, nimble in our credit practices? So it's really, I would say, a total management team process in terms of the analyzing and responding to the customer feedback.
It's interesting. So because we focus so heavily on sales data, or again on expense data, and benchmark that, maybe we really don't focus heavily enough on the customer data that we get in. Do you find that a lot of companies are focused on some revenue hard numbers, and not necessarily that how's my brand doing?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Sales numbers, everyone measures, sales volume, gross margin,
Yeah.
operating expenses, and those are very, very important measures to see how your company is performing. However, all of those things they're lagging indicators. They tell us what has happened in the past.
Yeah.
Whereas getting feedback from your customers are leading indicators, because they're telling you, hey, because of how well you've performed for me, how knowledgeable your people are, how quick your deliveries are, I'm going to continue to give you my business over time. Or because of how poorly you're performing compared to the distributor down the street, I'm going to be shifting more of my purchasing elsewhere, right? So I think it's important. Most people have heard of the balanced scorecard, right? You've got financial metrics in there, you've got employee retention and development metrics, you've got operational metrics, but you've also got customer experience metrics, and that's really what this falls into. So is it the only thing that you should be measuring? Absolutely not, but it is something that's important, and that, as you said, a lot of companies and distributors fail to do, or fail to do in a proper way. I still hear from a lot of distributor leaders, oh, we know what our customers think about us because my outside salespeople tell me.
Yeah.
Well, your outside salespeople are not an impartial avenue to get that feedback from, right? They're going to kind of skew it in terms of the story and who they're getting from. So you've got to have a way, again, getting back to the purpose of this new conference for NAED, of making it hard data that's driven, that you can't talk yourself out of, right? The data is what it is. I mean, I went to school for finance. I'm a numbers person. I love numbers, and the reality is really in the data and the details.
So, I mean, do you see that a lot? Again, you get you do the survey, you get the results, but again, there's sort of that outside bias for I don't know what to call it, or that inside bias, I guess, where it's like, I know what they said, but that's not what they meant.
Oh, absolutely. Every time. I mean, I travel for a living. I go around and present results, of surveys we've done. And
Yeah.
I mean, every single presentation I give, I'll pop up a comment from a customer. They say, oh, that guy's crazy, Well, maybe that's the case. But if we see the same kind of comment from 5 different or 10 different customers,
Yeah.
or our average rating in a certain area is consistently low or mediocre, are all of our customers crazy? And if that's so, then maybe we need to get a new customer base, right? But
Yeah.
our customers' perception as a distributor is our reality, right? We're in business to serve our customers. And yeah, you're going to have those one-offs here or there that no matter what you do, they're always going to be a little bit cranky and hold it against you, right? But you really got to look for those overlapping themes and try to take the bias out of it.
Mhm. So TJ, give us a little bit of a preview, kind of what can folks who are coming to the NAED Data Insights Conference, what do you kind of have planned at this point? Without giving away the whole thing, you got to show up, you got to be there to get the whole deal. But what do you kind of have planned to kind of help folks at least, move forward with getting real customer data that they can take action?
Sure, absolutely. So in my presentation, I'm going to be talking to the audience at this first ever event for NAAD about the right questions that you want to be asking. How do you develop questions that are actionable, that cover all the important aspects of the customer service experience? I'm going to be talking to the folks and telling them about how you should go about determining your customer sample, right? Which is a huge part of this, is who are we going to send that out to? Because it's really going to skew the results one way or the other. But most importantly, what I'm going to be focused on is how do you take action on the data and on the customer feedback after you do it? Because it's a great undertaking and process to go about in terms of soliciting feedback from your customers and gathering that. However you go about doing that,
Yep.
but where the rubber meets the road is in the execution, in the follow-up. What are we going to do about it? Obviously, in my company, doing this for 40 years with over 100 different companies, we've seen it all. We've seen companies that have done absolutely nothing with it, and we've seen companies that have grown, enormously, and have really taken the customer feedback and data to heart. And so I'm going to be giving the NAAD members who attend in Dallas in October, late October, just an idea of how you go about with those follow-up steps and really taking action on the customer feedback.
And that's why it's the Data Insights Conference, because you're going to learn how to really analyze those insights and that data and create some strategies with it. And that's what a day and a half of, not just you, we have a whole bunch of other speakers that are lined up to talk about, to talk about the sales data, to talk about how to really analyze it. And I'm looking forward to your presentation, TJ, certainly. And I appreciate you agreeing to, again, kind of be the first guy out, the first conference ever, and you're coming out to help us out with it. And I appreciate you joining us. I appreciate you coming on the Distributed with TED Magazine podcast to give us a preview too. Thanks a ton. I appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely, Scott. My pleasure, and looking forward to seeing everyone in Dallas.
Yeah, just a reminder again, that's October 25 through 27, the Westin Dallas Fort Worth Airport Hotel, the NAED Data Insights Conference. You can go to www.naed.org/data-insights-conference. It's for everybody. It's for your sales leaders. It's for your C-suite leaders. It's for your marketing leaders. It's for your IT guys. Anybody's got their fingertips on your data, you should come on out. So TJ, I'm excited to hear what you have to teach them and to help them out as they move into the future in a data-driven, what we're calling building a connected business for the future. So thanks for being on the podcast and being in the conference. And one other quick thing, if folks want to ask me some questions about this podcast or the Data Insights Conference, again, as always, there's two ways that you can contact me. First, you can give me a phone call, 314-812-5311. Send me an email, scosta, SCOSTA @NAAD.org. Love to trade some ideas. Again, we can talk TED Magazine or the websites, talk about the newsletters, whatever you got. But until we get a chance to talk again, thanks everybody for watching. Thanks everybody for listening to the Distributed with TED Magazine podcast.